Hello everyone. This video is another requested video, and I was asked about how to dig tunnels, or at least to keep them straight. Now, when first starting out with this game, it is a little tricky to kind of get a gauge on how the blocks form with each other. However, hopefully I can clear that up here with this video. So this tunnel here is 3 blocks high, and I chose 3 blocks because, well, 2 blocks is a little glitchy at times, and you do fit in 2 blocks, however, just barely. And another thing I want to mention is, as of this current build right now, it seems that most zombies can't get into a 2-block wide gap. Now that may change. I suspect they are probably going to fix that. So I just set up a little place here, and this here shows a flush 3-block wide tunnel. And I wanted to show the differences. Like say this one, for example, only the bottom block has been dug out. Now the easiest way to tell how your tunnel is going to be with frames of some sort. You can use wood frames, rebar frames. You could use hay bales, but I wouldn't suggest it, simply because they have a max load of 0, meaning they cannot even hold themselves up. So if I were to place one anywhere except on the bottom, they would fall down. So this tunnel has a gap at the bottom, and you can kind of tell the difference as it's trying to blend in with this block here, and it's got a slope. Now here's a tunnel that has a 1 block in the middle dug out, and again you can tell the difference by the slopes here. So if I were to compare that with this right here, you can sort of tell the difference. Now most of this just takes a lot of practice. I've had very many days of practicing digging tunnels. Well, not really tunnels, just digging in general. So this one here has a 1 block gap at the top, and again you can tell that it is that way with this slope here. And when you're digging, the easiest way to tell if your tunnel is straight is if it makes this diamond kind of shape at the top and the bottom. Now it's kind of difficult to explain that, and that's not necessarily true. However, that's really the best way I can think of at the moment. And so on this side, I've dug out 2 blocks on the bottom and left the top one. So like I said, as always, you can tell how your tunnel is doing with frames. And this one here, I dug out the top 2, except for the bottom one. And you can tell that it is not flush with this slope here. Don't mind that. And on this one, I was actually trying to show what it would look like if you were doing a 3 wide tunnel. That's the middle one dug out, and the sides were left alone. So really, I can honestly only say that it just takes a lot of practice figuring out how the terrain blends with each other. Now of course, I can't exactly show the different stages of destructions for the blocks right now, as my block durability is just way too low. So if you're ever unsure, always carry frames when you're digging. And this all depends on how big you want your tunnel to be as well. So this is what it would look like flush as a 3x3 wide tunnel. And by that I mean 3 by 3. And I've kind of set up the same thing with stone as well. So this is what it should look like if you're trying to get a flush tunnel that's only 1 block wide and 3 blocks high. And on this side I've done the exact same thing as above. There's 1 block dug out at the bottom and 2 left on the top. And over here, 1 block in the middle, 2 left in between it. Now this flashlight is really bright for some reason, and it's hard to get a good angle, but you can kind of see that it is indeed not very flush. And you will not be able to fit through that, so there's no point in leaving it like that. And this one here, just like above, has 1 block dug out in the top and 2 on the bottom. So you can, I keep on stressing this, but you can always check the positioning of the blocks that you're trying to dig out with frames. It's probably the easiest way, and also you can place them down as markers and pick them up later. So as a little refresher, this is what the tunnel should look like, and here's a tunnel with 2 dug out on the bottom and 1 left at the top, so you can kind of tell the difference even at a distance. And of course this block would have to go. And here's the same thing, however the bottom block was left and the top 2 were dug out. And you can tell the difference by looking at this tunnel. Now I was trying to get a good judgment of how much you could dig before everything fell down, and dirt seems to follow the rules. This was just a 2 block wide tunnel. You could dig that for as long as you wanted and you would have no risk of it falling down. I suggest doing either 2 wide or 3 wide if you're going to be digging in dirt, as bad things could happen. However, you are able to dig 4 blocks wide and however many up as you want, as dirt, the stats have changed but they remain the same overall. With a max load of 20 and a mass of 10, it can hold 2 of itself. So as long as this was a support, meaning it goes all the way to the bedrock, it can hold 2 of itself before the physics starts trying to make it collapse. And the same goes for the other side. So theoretically speaking, you should be able to dig this tunnel as far as you wanted, 4 blocks wide. Now for whatever reason, digging far below the dirt, this is 11 to 10 blocks below the dirt, with stone I was able to dig up to 20 by 20 blocks. And I'll show that here. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. And the same is on this side as well. For whatever reason, this is able to hold itself up, and I don't know why. It may be the metal, like iron and lead, but I can't say for sure, and I think it's just a bug. So This is just for demonstration purposes only. I do not suggest digging a 20 block wide tunnel, as it simply, it's just not, I wouldn't say it's not feasible, but it's not realistic. And it may change in the future as well. So rock or stone can hold 6 of itself before it decides to try and collapse. Obviously this is an exception, so theoretically speaking you should be able to hold 6 blocks on this wall and 6 blocks on your far wall. So that would be roughly about a total of 12 blocks wide of a tunnel that you could dig before it would collapse. So to be safe, you're probably better off with 6 if you really wanted to dig that big of a tunnel. But you might just want to keep it lower than that. And that, I just wanted to show that so that you could know that you're mostly safe no matter how far below in the rock or in the stone that you dig. Just keep in mind different variables. And I guess one of the best ways to explain how to create tunnels is by actually creating one. So let's say I wanted to create a tunnel here. Well, you'd probably be better off using wood frames to figure out where you wanted the tunnel to be. Now I made sure to leave a 3 block gap between my wood frames, and those will be my markers. Now the pickaxe is very slow, so bear with me as I use the auger. So that obviously is not flush. And I'm not quite sure how I could explain how to keep this straight. I've just had so much practice, and you kind of just gotta visualize it. So here, for example, I can tell that this is not a straight tunnel because of this angle right here, right? You're looking for this straight wall, so to speak. It will have a little bit of an edge right here because it's trying to blend in with the terrain, but it's not going to be anything crazy like this. So again, if you're unsure about anything, you can always use wood frames to figure out what parts are not correct. So even though it's a little difficult to tell, but eventually you will get used to it. So let's say I went crazy like that and I forgot where my markers were. Well, if you're looking at it straight on, it can be a little difficult to tell. However, if you know you're going to be digging this way, you can always look at it from the side and you can tell which parts are not flush with each other. Now even here, just looking around in your tunnel, you can tell that one wasn't correct. Now here's that edge there, and I guess the best way is seriously just to look at it. You can compare sides. If you know this side is flush, then you can tell that this side is not. It does kind of blend in, and there's no real line right here. However, if you look at it from both sides, you can tell that it is trying to blend, and this is what it should look like. So there should only be a tiny little curve here. It's about an inch thick on my screen here. And if you're just digging a 2 block tunnel, or a 2 block high tunnel, it should be fairly easy to you tell if you're going in the right direction or not. Just make sure you don't go into some weird way. Like you may accidentally destroy that block there, but you can continue along with doing whatever you want to do. Just try not to overextend your tunnel, as you may experience a collapse. One other thing I want to note is if you're digging for resources like this, it shouldn't really matter how much of it you dig out, as I show with this tunnel here. If you really want to be safe, you can always place supports every 6 blocks or so, or even less if you really want to. And if you are digging for these resources here, one thing you want to be very careful about, I don't know what's going on. It looks like my tunnel finally decided to collapse, and it's very laggy right now. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind when digging tunnels, and that's exactly why you don't want to dig a 20 block wide tunnel. It may have been fine while I was digging the tunnel, but as soon as I dug up one more, I must have destroyed the quote structural integrity unquote, because that certainly wasn't supposed to be allowed to stand like that. So I am going to stop this recording while this lags, and then I will come back with a little bit more. So here is the aftermath of the destruction that happened when trying to create a tunnel that is too wide. That wasn't really what I was trying to show though. So right here is a gravel block, and when you're doing your tunnels, this is important, it'll mostly show up, I believe it's only in resource veins, so where you'll find potassium nitrate, lead, and iron and coal. So the reason I wanted to show this was because gravel has 0 max load. So that means it cannot hold itself, and nothing else can really hold it. And that'll be important if you're creating a tunnel through resource veins. So, but it shouldn't matter too much as long as you keep your tunnels at a reasonable width. So now, obviously all the things that I showed are actually only for full blocks, and for regular games that kind of, they'll apply, but for the most part they won't. So I'm going to set my block durability back to 100% and try and show you the differences as well for that. Alright, so we're back, and this time the block durability is up to 100% again, and now I'm going to try and show you how actual digging will look like. So let's say you've already got a wall of stone or whatever and you're trying to dig into the stone. Just set your markers. I usually go 3 by 3, that allows enough room to maneuver. However, if this is going to be for horde defense, you're probably only going to want a 1 block gap tunnel. So now this is going to vary depending on your mining skill and your pickaxe and its quality. As the different amounts of health are going to make the stone's going to shrink, or at least it's going to try to. So the more hits that you take, the more that the graphic will change. Now as you can see, it's still pretty much the same as before. So if you're only digging a 2-block high tunnel, it should still apply what I've said before, and it should be fairly straightforward on being able to keep it straight. Just make sure that you don't go off into weird directions like so. However, one thing I want to note about a 2-block high tunnel is if you crouch, you will not be able to stand up again until you get to a 3-block high area. And I'll show that here. So if I were to go into here, I can stand as normal, but as soon as I crouch, my character will remain crouching until I get to a 3-block high area. So that's why if you're building a tunnel that's not for horde defense, I would suggest doing 3 blocks high. And here we can see that it is still not flush, as it's only 2 blocks there. And I can check that with the wood frames. And also, if the tunnel is not for horde defense, it's probably a good idea to make it a little bit wider as well. So that way it allows you room to move around. So here, I made this weird looking tunnel on purpose to kind of show you that you can see which parts are the ones that you want to get rid of if you're going to make a square looking tunnel. So this one up top doesn't look right, as we're looking for a wall that resembles this. And through lots of practice, I already know that that one is not correct. But again, I cannot stress it enough. You can always check where the blocks are with the frame. And also, this one right here is not correct either. So as you can see, the graphic will mostly remain about the same size, no matter what durability it's at. It is a little bit smaller, but you're still able to see which ones are the ones that you want to get rid of, as long as you pay careful attention. So even though I've reduced the health of all of these blocks, you can still see on the side that if I wanted this to be 3 blocks wide, and with my markers here, I can easily see that this wall needs to go. And there you go. I hope that helps in making smoother looking tunnels. Hopefully it wasn't too long. I tried to go into detail, and I actually found it a little hard to explain, but if you have any questions, be sure to leave a comment below, and I will try and clarify things a bit more as usual. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome videos daily. Well, I'm going to try for daily. Things may change in the near future, but I will let you know before that happens. Anyways, I shall see you in the next video. Bye bye.